Cool, man. We're finally going here. We after me oversleeping and some Zoom issues, we got it going. You got your coffee. I've got my tea.
Yeah, got it right here, dude. Right here.
Yeah, I like your mug. That's cool.
I love the fact that I've got coffee and you've got tea.
I know this is so flipped. Usually it's like the Americans got coffee, and then I was just telling you, and so everyone that's watching this in post knows if it's not blatantly obvious. This is recorded in post, and the main reason is just Reese and I have super busy schedules. We kind of finally found a time that met up, and we are just like, dude, let's just do this. And even today, like I said, I overslept, and yeah, but most Americans are not knowing of the Great Yorkshire Tea, and I am an addict of the Great Yorkshire Tea.
The best.
Yeah. So here's my first question for you, Reese. How'd you make your coffee? Did you use a coffee machine, or did you use a Chemex? Did you use a?
No, so I use a filter. I just use like a filter thing. Yeah, just black coffee from a filter. No milk, no sugar. Don't spoil it.
Yeah. That's usually how I am too, man. I'll tell you what, being as much of a traveler as you are, man, which is a great reference to a discussion we'll have here shortly. You should pick up one of the oh man, what's it called? Shoot, I would know this if I had more tea in me. You should pick up a AeroPress. You would absolutely love that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, G from Illusionist actually turned me on to it. I've seen it before, but he got me addicted when we did the shooting for How to Read Minds 2 in Vegas. Like, it's literally like you put your coffee in, you put your kettle of water in, you let it sit for about 30 seconds, you give it a stir, you then put your plunger in and you directly into the cup, and it makes literally a cup of coffee that they have world championships to try and compete to make.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Wow, that's cool, man. I'll check that out.
Yeah, it appeals to the hipster in both of us, I know. But we got so much to cover, man. I'm going to really start here with what's your history? Where do you come from? We're going to tell the story. Obviously, a story in there too of when we finally met up. Like, we've known each other for a number of years now. I think since 2017, 18.
Yeah.
Our 5 year. We're past our 5 year. It's so cute.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Exactly. And we'll kind of go into some of like your thoughts and feelings, and what's your beliefs and how you structure and what your aims are with magic, how you use those things outside of magic too, because I know you've used it in your real life quite a bit. Obviously, some of your more cool niche-y things, like your channel on YouTube that's been taken off, which is sick. And finally we'll get into what's up with the Traveler and what that's all about, some of the history on that. And, we'll kind of round it off from there. So that's what people watching this can really expect. So, to start off, I know you obviously, but kind of give everyone watching an idea of who you are, what you're all about, and, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so yeah, so I started magic when I was very, very young, at sort of the age of sort of 10, 11. And it was just like the simple stuff that I was shown. My uncle showed me, and I tell this, if anybody's read my books, you'll know this story. And so I sat at my uncle's house, very young kid, and having a brew, as we call it in the UK, and he reached forward and he grabbed something I didn't know what, and he pulled out a red silk and then vanished it basically. And that's where my journey began. And I remember just sat there and just being like, what on earth? It rocked my world. And so he began to teach me magic. And he always taught me that you only ever need 5 strong effects to be a magician. And so I did the disappearing silk. I did kind of a version of 3-card Monty and a couple of other kind of things. He had this thing where you'd sign a 5-pence coin. The 5-pence coin would go into your pocket, and then you'd instantly pull out a matchbox that had rubber bands around it. You take the rubber band, and inside was a little bag. and inside the little bag was the signed 5 pence coin, or whatever coin you were using. And so I'd just do stuff like that for years essentially, and then my magic developed a little bit further. And then start watching TV one evening, and along walked Darren Brown, and changed everything really. Like everybody else, I presumed you were doing it for real. I couldn't work out what you were doing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I quickly began to study kind of mind magic, and what I later obviously found out were called mentalism. I didn't even know what it was called at that time. And then a few years after that, Pete Turner kind of just lived down the road from me, so we quickly became good friends. And yeah, Pete quickly obviously blew my mind. Came home and had to take 2 paracetamol first time I met him, because he just absolutely destroyed my brain. But yeah, and then from there, me and Pete just kind of became really good friends. And yeah, he began to teach me everything that he knew. He began studying people like Bob Cassidy, Animan, 13 Steps, like all the kind of basic stuff, and then quickly kind of developed that. So yeah, that's kind of where in a short version of my journey through magic, certainly. And along those lines, along those years, there were different things that influenced the direction that I've kind of gone in now. But yeah, that's basically from start to kind of sort of 2016-ish, I think, where my journey began.
Yeah, and so I know we're skipping ahead a little bit, but you took a break, which I think is important for the kind of a framing of this conversation too. You took a break for a good long time and focused on other efforts, like you're amazing at leather work. I was there at your house earlier this year, and it's literally like a Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. It's just such a unique environment. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense as where Reese lives. And you've got such a, like, your town is literally, like, for those that haven't been to the UK, it's almost like a storybook village. How, like, that's how Pete described him, as like, hey, we're going to the town where basically it's like Diagon Alley, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly that.
cool.
Yeah. Diagon Alley from Harry Potter is exactly how my street looks. Or if anybody's kind of read or watched the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol, very kind of much that feeling, especially at Christmas time. So to kind of set the scene for people that haven't been, and especially if you haven't been to the UK, so it's essentially like a postcard, like a picture postcard of what you guys would class as the UK, right? So we've got kind of the smoke coming out of the chimneys, the streets cobbled, there's little quaint tea rooms on every corner, there's little like quirky bookshops, and it's just, yeah, like you said, Jacob, very much like stepping into Diagon Alley. The street even curves around like Diagon Alley does, and there's all these kind of weird and wonderful shops, and my house is right on that street. So yeah, it's a pretty cool place to live.
There's a beautiful picture I took. I remember just going out. I remember I went out back to smoke real quick, and I look out there and I go, holy shit, this is what you get to walk out back to and see every day. And you're just like, yeah, what about it? And I'm like, this is gorgeous, dude. I took a picture of it. Still one of my, I'll tell you what, that shot I took, few pictures I took off of your back porch, when I describe to people, like, what are some of the, most interesting places you travel to? I'm like, well, I don't know if in most people's standards this is interesting, but beautiful, and like, just like really puts life in perspective of just like how you're in almost another world. Like, it feels like Middle Earth out there. I show it to people and they're like, holy crap. Like that picture has been shown to a lot of Americans to show how beautiful the north of England is. Just so you know.
It is beautiful, and to kind of set the scene again, so straight out of my back door you've got all the beautiful British kind of countryside and the greenery, and yeah, kind of very much like Lord of the Rings feel to it, I guess. But yeah, it's like Jacob was, like you were saying, man, like I took a break. I took a 3-year break, so to kind of bring the story together for people. So I released my first effects after training with Pete for quite a while, which was Navigator. And I then, and we can kind of bounce back if you like between these stories and stuff, but I then released a lot of my material alongside Pete Turner through 13 Souls Production. So a lot of my material went through there. I then released a book called Art of the Magi, which was essentially my theory and philosophy on magic and mentalism. And then I just disappeared. Nobody knew where I went.
I was asking Pete about you too. I'm like, where's Reese at? And he's like, man, he's just doing his own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I did. I kind of released like all the material that I had at the time. And I just disappeared from the community deliberately, because I was kind of getting to a stage where I just needed that creation space. I needed to go away and create. So essentially that's what I did. And I focused a lot on my leather art. I went away. We've got a camper van that we travel all around the UK and Europe in. So I just took a notebook, took a pen, got in my van with my beautiful wife and our little naughty dog, and we just went and we went to the mountains and the lakes, and I just started to write in these notebooks, which are now full. Like my brain just emptied. Like and so yeah, and essentially that is, so the Traveller is essentially from those notebooks. So it's essentially been 3 years in the making, 3 years of me working it, because I never stopped my mentalism. I was still working my mentalism every day. And so yeah, essentially the Traveller is, to come full circle, is kind of the first effects out of many notebooks that I just kind of poured my heart and soul into, really.
Yeah, and I do want to, after the answer this question, I do want to be like, because you've done it for me once, and it's so funny. You framed it as like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, let's see it. And you did it for me, and it's amazing, because I'm, to add to the story of Navigator, I've got my copy right here. This is actually the first time I've got my whole like space bar to unmute thing on, so because I'm a host, but I need to speak freely for this with my hands. There we go. So turn off mute there. This is basically from the first time we met, and you didn't bring this to me. I ordered this, I bought this, and then, when I first met you, I've got obviously signature in there, and we've been buddies ever since. I think maybe you can comment to this too, because I want to also touch on, before I basically put you on the spot and go, hey, can you show me the Traveller again? I've seen it once. I love experience. It's a cool frame on it. But if you were like, first off, thank you, because this is an amazing effect. And I think I remember showing you, but it was years later, like some of the ideas I kind of added to it. And we'll talk about that. Maybe I'll bring that up in the interview here too. Someone, when we have it inevitably out there, I think one of the plans is for Michael to have a Facebook group and stuff. I'll make like a small video going over it. For those of you that are early into this though, I'll go ahead and give that little idea here that I had. But yeah, that was when we first met. I remember it was right when we were filming the Bigger Fish Files. You came over to Pete's old place when he had the little conservatory. I just remember I actually have a picture of you somewhere where you're literally just,
yeah, that's right.
It looks like the Scream, basically, because Pete did I think it was a drawing duplication or something to you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think it was a drawing duplication, and it fooled me. He always fools me. Fools me so.
I can't remember how we did it, but I know we set you up somehow. And that was the best. And I think you just now learned this.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's Pete, isn't it? Like, he's always trying to figure out a way to wind people up. Like,
yeah. No, it's yeah. No,
I think that's how the rumors that Pete Instant Stooges everyone started, just because he does it sometimes just to wind people up for fun.
Like, yeah. I'll get him back. It's 2 Kit Kats he owes me now.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Kit Kats. But what do you? Okay, so long-winded way of saying, now I'm done blowing smoke up your ass. What do you think the importance was of this break? Like, man, I'm one of those guys too. I took a long break, actually not too long, I think around the same time you did. 13 Souls happened. Pete went to Illusionist for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think both you and I had a similar breaking period. I came in back a little bit earlier than you did. Mm-hmm. And I found it incredibly therapeutic, mind expanding, if that's the right word.
Yeah, definitely.
So can you just comment a bit on like why do you think it's important to take a step back sometimes? And also, what did you pull from some of your other interests, like your leather work, from your travels, from being a content creator too? You've got a really kick-ass channel where you're doing some really interesting stuff. There's always a lot of good like drama in there in the way a good drama when I say that, not like that's my purse, not that kind of stuff. But it's so
Yeah.
funny your ventures and everything. Can you guys speak to that of how important it is sometimes to take a step back, have a break, and come back refreshed and re-passionate and re-energized about something?
Yeah, so essentially all my ideas that I bring into magic and mentalism are all kind of from, if you want to say, like the outside world. So I think for me, like my inspiration comes from everything from movies, books. I'm an avid reader, so I read a lot. But more importantly, from kind of being out there in the real world, for want of a better word, I think, and kind of all that gets pulled in to when I create. And I think what happened was kind of towards the end of working with Pete, I didn't have anywhere else to go because I just kind of released so much of kind of my material. And a lot of the things, like a lot of the time, like on those old video downloads, when I did the video download series, you'll kind of hear Pete say a lot, like Reese, we were telling Reese when he needs to release this, and Reese wouldn't and stuff, and that's because I wanted to keep something back for myself, right? But at the same time, when you're creating, you want to, or I certainly want to anyway, kind of give people as much as I possibly can give them. So kind of I poured everything into that, and there was kind of no stone left unturned. So I needed a break for my own mind and just to be able to create again, really. Kind of towards the end of that time, I was kind of sat with a notebook and nothing was kind of coming out of me at all. It was just a dead end, and so I didn't want to create for the sake of creating, because anybody that knows me knows I never ever do that. And so I just needed to get away. I needed to explore my other interests, really. And so yeah, so I started doing the leather art. So for if you don't know, I'm an artist. So I create things like playing card cases, tarot cases, and I freehand paint them basically in whatever design people want. And so I just immersed myself in that. And like I never stopped like magic and mentalism. I just needed that time kind of away from the community, time for myself, time to re-energize and build myself back up. And kind of I wanted to kind of have like I had the kind of the time in my head has been like 3 to 4 years, and I would come back kind of super sharp, super kind of ready to share with the community again. And so that's what I did. And as I say, we went off in our camper van, kind of all around the UK. And like Jacob says, we kind of we film it. We've got a YouTube channel, so that's Romany Pirates on YouTube. And yeah, so that's myself and my wife, as I say, and we just go. And so as I say, I took these notebooks and a pen and just began. And the minute I did that, and the minute I was near the mountains and the lakes and kind of doing that, it just kind of poured out of me. Like it wasn't even, it wasn't difficult. It wasn't a difficult process. It wasn't an unpleasant process. I'd just sit at the bottom of a mountain with a flask of coffee and a notebook and a pen, and I would just writing and writing and writing, and then the next day I'd go and perform it, like to anybody and everybody in pubs and along our travels, right? And so the more I were doing that, the more inspiration I were pulling from the people that I were meeting on the road, and from these beautiful places. And travel obviously is a big part, like it's a big part of who I am, and what inspires me is travel and culture and everything around that really just inspires me. So yeah. So I think sometimes kind of in magic and mentalism, we get wrapped up in this world where we just immerse ourselves in that world, right? And the problem with that is that you can't think outside the box. You've boxed yourself into that world, and so you can't, even if you're not a creator, you know, in your presentation and everything, you won't be able to pull from different inspirations, right? And it happens to us all, and that's what were happening to me. And so I think it's so important that whatever people's kind of hobbies are or interests are, that you know, you make sure you do them as well, and you pull that back into your magic, you pull that back into your mentalism, because ultimately that makes the experience for the participant and the spectators all the more real, I think, because you're coming at it from a real angle, if that makes sense. So essentially that's what I did. I left, if you want to call it, left the community when I did that by writing Art of the Magi. So Art of the Magi was my philosophy and theory on magic and mentalism, which we can go into if you want. But yeah,
Love
that's
that.
yeah, I off, and that's the reason, was just to give my mind a rest and to be able to just free my mind up and get that inspiration again, really. And I've come back. I feel great. I'm sharp. I'm quicker. You know, my mind feels fast. Like I'm super sharp, just because of that break. Really, I allowed myself. I gave myself that permission to take that break away from the community, and I think sometimes that's okay.
I agree with you, man. I argue this to a lot of people. Because I think we're in this world anymore. It's bigger in the US, I feel, than when I was in the UK. Like, what I like about the north of the UK is it doesn't seem like a majority of people are just like trying, the keyword is trying, which does imply failure, really hard to be special. Like, they just are. They just exist. There's like, the north has this salt of the earth beauty to it that I try and find a comparison to it, and it's why I love going back so much. It's why I love going to see Pete, you, and everyone. Like, I spent some time in London. It's just, you know, it's. I think this will ring true to you too, because I know we were right before we got on this call. I was grabbed the guitar to have it there just in the background, and I showed you really quick a Don McLean song I'm working on. You're like, oh, I love Don McLean. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, you'll like this then, and you know, I think it kind of London, when I was there, kind of felt like I feel like if a northerner was there, a true northerner, they'd be kind of like, it's like New York's Not My Home by Jim Croce. If you've ever heard that one, it feels like it's like, it's hustle, it's bustle. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone's trying their best to stand out and to be special. Versus, there's a beauty to the north, right? And I think because of that, and this bleeds over a lot into kind of this breaks thing we're talking about. I think when you take a break, you take a step back, right? You end up basically fighting the law of inverse effect, because the truth is, when you, like you're saying, when you are so submerged in a community or whatever, and you have so many reference points of a community, a lot of times you lose sight of the fact that no layperson, nobody loves magic and mentalism more than a mentalist magician, right? And we lose sight, I think, sometimes of what's in it, what's important for the spectator, and the fact that our thing that could take, you know, 5 minutes to do to get an actual payout, if it's not a special payout, you know, in just the right dosage, then we've essentially stolen time away from their loved ones for people that are from people and things that really matter to their life, and they're never going to get that back. So we should respect that. And I feel like that's something that you heavily lean on and, you know, automatically kind of filter in, which I love that about you. So that being said, man, can you talk a little about like some of the stuff of like Art of the Magi and like some of your thinking in that? And then, you know, after that, we'll circle back, and I'd love to, if you don't mind, show me the Traveler again, because it's just such a cool thing to experience. And, you know, we'll push on from there.
Yeah. So essentially, Art of the Magi was all about appearing real. So it was, so I lean strongly on the fact that I like to think, what would a real kind of wizard, for want of a better word, do? So a lot of my work is I will perform a book test if I'm in a library, right? Or I will frame a book test to be, you know, I've just got off a train, I've been reading this cool book. You know, playing cards I would use in like a poker demonstration, you know, like a casino type thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, and what Art of the Magi is all about is that I perform things to the situation as much as I possibly can, right? How would we influence the environment if we were real magicians or wizards or whatever, right? Or mind readers. And so, yeah, that's essentially the philosophy that I've had for a long, long time. Personally, you know, I wouldn't, you know, get up on a deck of cards and perform, you know, 3 or 4 tricks with it. I just wouldn't. If I was, you know, I sometimes frame a deck of cards as in like, you know, play it up as a more of a darker side, like these were the original tarot and these are known as the devil's playthings, you know, and I will go at it from that point of view. So yeah, essentially I only perform things wherever possible that makes sense to that situation, and essentially that's what the Art of the Magi was. It was a very kind of, it was deliberately written to challenge people's kind of viewpoints. I did that on purpose, right? Because I wanted people to look at themselves, like you know, and myself included. I needed to change a lot of stuff, like in the way I was performing, in order to kind of fit that. But yeah, it's essentially like, what would we do if we were real? Like, how would we act? How would we, you know, what would we do? Would we all be in suits? Would that be what we were doing if we were real magicians? And so it was kind of this rarity that I wanted to get back. Like, I wanted to capture that kind of, you know, history of magic and bringing it into the present day. Anybody that knows me, and I apologize sincerely, but you know, it's just one of my things. I hate kind of the magician playing card ties and stuff like that. Like, I just think it takes away the power of what magic is. And so yeah, I absolutely hold no apologies for that. I will always try and appear real. I very rarely use any disclaimers when I'm performing. I think that takes away the magic. I don't understand why you would use a disclaimer. Wherever possible, I appear to do it for real, and that's just me. And I know people have their opinions on that, and that's okay as well. But for me, I always aim to be as real as possible, to give the participant and the spectators that experience, right? Like you just said about, like, that's time away from their day. That's time away from, you know, if you're performing at a gig at a restaurant, you know, you've interrupted their table. You know, so please make it worthwhile is my opinion. And so I will always kind of give them that full 100% experience. Like, this is the real deal, you know. And that's just me. That's just my way of presenting things and performing, really. So yeah, that's what the Art of the Magi was all about. It was all about that. It was all about challenging that perception, you know, and kind of putting it out there with the hope that people would kind of not necessarily perform things the way I do, because that's not what I meant, but kind of, yeah, essentially so that we can all give us a real performance as possible to the participant, really.
Couldn't get my unmute there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just we have this awesome note taker, and I'll put this down in the link for those of you who are watching this, and it kind of covers some of the highlights. So I just wanted to I clicked a button to add a highlight in there because I thought that was really cool, and maybe we pull that later on, and I'll send you that clip of that, so that way you can maybe put that onto you know, the page for Art of the Magi, because I think that's a really good explanation.
Yeah, so Art of the Magi is a bit for anybody that's wanting to pick that up and have a read. That's available through Alakazam and Ace Magic Studios. So that were released back in 2018, I think 2019, something like that.
Cool. So I want to ask you on this too, because you mentioned the other day, you know, we're trying to arrange this. Both of us are, you know, juggling a lot of stuff all the time.
Crazy.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I got some leather art to do on Tuesday. I've got this. I've got tarot reading, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know you read. So, and I'm a big believer that a lot of real, again, like talking real magic kind of stuff, readings are a huge part of that. I think that so many magicians miss just how impactful just sitting down and having a reading is. And it doesn't have to have like a billet in it or anything either. It can just be honestly an interpretation of the visual art that is the tarot, or I guess the visual art that is palmistry and the physical sensation and experience of itself, right? Can you, before we, I know I keep pushing us back from, the traveler, I want to see it, for everyone that's watching, I'm sure thinking right now, but can you commentate on that as well, like how that ties in as well? Like, I know you're a big believer in like the big believer in how do you and how do you, like, how am I trying to say here? I know you're a big believer in utilizing readings and making them really impactful for people. Can you kind of like talk about why you think readings are such an important thing? Why they kind of stand on your own in your world too? How things like that.
Yeah,
Can you discuss that?
I think for me, readings are in terms of bringing them into the mentalism world first of all, and into the magic world. Like, anybody that does this will tell you that if you do a reading for somebody at a gig, like if you read somebody's palm at a gig, put your close-up case down and just forget about it completely. Like, you will just not need it. Like, and so for me, it's always about the participant. It's never about me and what I like. I can sit at home and watch Paul Daniels, which I love to watch that kind of magic at home, right? That's for my entertainment. But when you're performing for somebody else or giving somebody else this experience, this is a gift that we have to give to other people, and it's a powerful gift at that. And so yeah, essentially the readings, you just won't need anything else. And I think the reason for that is because people see that as being real, right? If you whichever way around you look at it, right, unless it's a specific thing, like I say, like if you're in a casino or a poker table, or you're presenting the playing cards as something quite historical before the tarot, I think unless you're doing that, there's part of the brain for the participant and spectator, in my opinion, that are always going to see that as a trick. Doesn't matter how good you are, right? It doesn't matter. They're going to see that as a trick. And I think that's partly why I lent into mentalism and mind reading, because that was the closest thing to being real as I could possibly get, right?
Yeah.
Anything, otherwise there is an element of that were really cool, I really enjoyed it, but I know it's a trick, and I just wanted to personally come away from that. And so for me, that's where the readings and the come into it, both the tarot and palm reading. I do both. And yeah, like I always start off like that. Like, so essentially I will say to somebody, my name's Reese, your name is, right? And they'll say their name, right? And I'll say, can I just take your hand a second? And I'll look at the hand briefly, and I'll say, are you a Virgo? If they say yes, great. I'll say, yeah, because that makes sense, because I'm seeing this line and that line, right? If they say no, I say, oh, right, well, that's strange, because I'm seeing these kind of characteristics in you, which would represent somebody of a Virgo, right? And I just sail on by, right? And that's now how I introduce the star sign. If they are a Virgo, I give them a reading based on the Virgo, right? If they're not, then I'll go into the palm reading. So I've kind of got in magic language, I've got a two-way out there. So I'll do that, and then I'll give them a palm reading. I'll throw a little bit of cold reading in there. I mean, like, I just mix it all up. And then somebody, guaranteed somebody from the next table or for wherever you're performing will say, oh, you do palm readings, can we be next? I'll be like, yeah, I'll get to you in a second. I'll finish that table and then I move on, right? And so I'm not saying don't take any tricks, effects with you to gigs. I'm just saying, like, if you get into this, you'll quickly realize kind of how real people perceive this. This is no longer a trick at that point. It's not even at that point within the magic world. You are doing something that people already know is real if they believe that, right? So you're already setting yourself up in a good position, because you're not trying to now convince them that it's real like we would in magic, right? They already think that it's real, right? Or there's some slight thing there where it couldn't possibly be a trick, even if they're a bit skeptical, right? So essentially that's why I do it, just because it lines up with the fact that I want to be as real as possible, and so that is as real as possible, right? Because a lot of people perceive it as being real. I'm very, very respectful and very careful of what I perform. I have a very, very tight set list of about 13 effects that have not moved for some time, apart from a couple of things that I have kind of added to that recently. But it's a very, very solid set that's very real and almost at times quite an emotional experience for the participants, because that's what I want to give. And so readings for me fit perfectly into that. I would never ever perform something that wasn't as close to being that real as possible after a reading. So if you are doing this, if you are getting into it, just bear that in mind, that you might want to just think about the rest of your set. You know, I would never ever perform a reading and then do ambitious cards to the same person, right? I just wouldn't.
100%.
So that's that. And then I do so that's kind of what I do within Magic and Mentalism. I'll do palm reading. The tarot reading is completely separate, right, for me. So I do read the tarot, but I never ever ever mix the two, ever, right? So I wouldn't dream personally, again I keep saying personally because obviously everybody has their own opinion and that's okay, I can't emphasize that enough, but personally I would never mix the tarot with magic or mentalism. That is completely separate. And yeah, I kind of have a lot of kind of respect and it's a very real thing in a different way as the tarot. So I personally, I'm not bothered how good the tarot trick is.
Right.
I would never put it in my set ever. The tarot is completely different.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you on that. I'm like before I say this, understand one big thing about to say here, everyone watching. I am not crapping on this company or the creative effort of whoever made this. But like recently, like I'm kind of interested in this. Like I have the PETA pad. I love the PETA pad. It's been great. They have really good customer service. Like mine broke and they sent me another one without any questions asked and replaced the stuff I didn't include in mine, which is great. But like they have this PETA Sharpie, and one of the things they're releasing with it is like, oh, this is a tarot thing, but it's like a Sharpie that it releases a very subtle thing. Like you and I love pendulums. You're playing the pendulum actually and showing me your pocket watch pendulum. Pull that out. I'm gonna shut up so Sue's back to you for a sec.
Yeah, so this is what I use. It's a little pocket watch, and this thing is so responsive. Let's see if we can get it going. There it goes. Look. So yeah, no, I love pendulums.
They're one of the best. I mean, it's real magic, isn't it? It goes back to the times of Mesopotamia. You know, like the earliest civilizations before civilization came together, they discovered this thing. You know,
yeah, and again, it's I do a meter response that is again very real magic. You know, I can put this thing in a participant's hand and know it's going to respond straight away. And so for them, that is an unexplainable real piece of magic, if you want to call it that. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted you then. How rude.
No, not at all. Not at all. I wanted you to show it. So I had to shut up because our camera's back based on the speaker. So I'm like, let me shut up and I want you to show this. You know, going back to palms real quick, I do have something kind of interesting. I think I didn't know you did palms. I think you'll really love this. I've never really shared this with anybody, but I think it's this mutant hybrid I've created, and we'll keep it in here. It's kind of, we're at like what, I think like a 30-minute mark. So if people are really into this, they can discover this too. And then we'll go into Navigator. So I'll tell you something, and you can present something for me. I think it'll be cool. I think you'll like this a lot. So this is kind of cool. What I've had this belief in readings and human everything, and in digital marketing, which is what I do for a living, I use this as well. The answers to every problem, I feel for the most part, are already there, especially in the internal world. Maybe not in the external world of building like, you know, the Burj Khalifa. You need to have some external influence from it. But I think a lot of internal battles we have, which we kind of tackle in palms and tarot and everything, usually what I always make it the goal to do when I'm doing a reading, I'm like, okay, what truth inside of somebody can I bring to the forefront for them to accept, so they walk away with something that changes their thought process or their mind or whatever. But the thing is, also in what we do in palm reading and tarot, we do encounter people occasionally that have these really deep problems. Like, people come to us sometimes and they're like, you know, I'm, I came here and I was thinking about killing myself. You get this stuff like that all the time. So it's
Mm.
really important to put, I feel like, you need to have a mix of good and bad, but you need to put a positive frame generally on people, because what's going to happen is you're entering into their conscious barrier is here, and most people are having to do that and then eventually get let in. With this, you're going right around it, so you can leave people, I feel like, with lasting change. So this is something I've used quite a bit, and this is the first time I've shared it. This is for crediting, because I don't know why magicians have obsession with crediting, but this is the credits for it. One is Dr. Ritchie, the Ritchie technique. Doc Hilford published a book on that, and it was interesting. It's like a one ahead that's very unique. The other influence for this is Jerome Finley, and the final influence for this is Luke Germain's A Twisted Palm. So this is a freebie to give out to everybody. If you get to this part and you see this, do this. Reese, I think you're going to love this too. So what I'll do is, in a concept of a reading, I'll warm them up and go, so what I'm seeing, I want you to just let a few instances flow through your head, because I'm going to be honest with you, while I start off reading the traditional lines, what typically I like to do is then begin to let my intuition fire up as we get into this reading. And this is genuine too, by the way, to get outside script. I will look down at your palm and try and defocus my eyes and kind of let the lines and things swirl to me and let it reveal details and symbols and drawings that are relevant to your life. So what I want you to do is think of 3 questions that you would ask a genuine psychic, something you'd really like a genuine answer to, if someone could part the veil and see the past, the present, and the future all as one solid thing just by gazing into your palms. Okay, so the most important of those 3 questions, do me a favor and save that one for last. Perfect. Then you go in and you can do a general reading on the first 2 questions. Now, this can be, if you guys are familiar with Kenton Knepper's, like, handshake intuition thing, I think it's called, new awakenings. You just kind of answer the question generally without being too specific, right? And I say, those are my impressions here. Is that relevant to you and your question right now? And 9% of the time they're going to be, yeah, it is. That actually gives me a little bit of thought onto this, because what you can do in that too, and here's another cool thing I'll throw in. If you look at somebody as they're thinking about the situation in question, what's really interesting is you can typically kind of get an idea what side it's on. And like, if you think of butterflies in your stomach, right? People don't think about this, but the reason why everybody kind of around the world has that kind of expression is because everybody experiences that representational thing the same way. Same thing typically with sadness. Same thing typically with envy. If you can bring it up in yourself and notice where the feeling starts and ends, you have the ability to then have them focus on something and tell them, if you can hone in on what that feeling is, you can tell them where it starts and ends and feels in their body typically. It's a really wild thing that I haven't seen talked about too much, but it came to me one day while reading some of the NLP stuff, trying to find the 10% of NLP that isn't bullshit. But next, you do the same thing again. You just do another general answer for the second question. The final one, what I like to do is say, now I want you to do this. I think most of the answers we have inside of ourselves, most of the answers are already inside of ourselves. We just have to unlock them and allow them to be known as truths. So I'll have them defocus their eyes, look into their palm, and basically do the twisted palm. And I'll say, what symbol is it that's coming to you right now as you see those lines swirl based on this situation? So let's say they say a house. Say, okay, so what that typically means is this: whatever this issue is, it's something revolving around foundational aspects of your life. This is something that essentially blah 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 blah, and you basically tie in a metaphorical reading of that house to whatever this unknown situation is. The greatest thing is they answer the question really on their own, and then at the end I typically ask, is that relevant and make sense to you? And they go, yes. And what understanding does that unlock for you? Not tomorrow, not yesterday, but right now. What does it unlock for you right now? And they can answer it. But that's something that I don't know if that's of an interest to anybody, but palm reading wise, I've used that for years. I've never really told anyone about it because there's not many people, I feel, magicians and stuff, I feel like, that would understand it. But there's something of mine that I think you'll really like.
That's real nice. That's great.
It's good, isn't it? And it's no props, and it fits within the boundaries of, in my opinion, what palm reading should be respected as and is in a lot of
Mm,
ways. So
okay.
I love that a lot. It's one of my favorite things that I save for very special occasions. That being
Yeah.
said, why don't you show me the Traveler, man? Let's quit
Yeah.
making them.
It's kind of worth saying there as well. Just kind of while we're on the topic of kind of readings and the tarot and stuff, is hypnosis as well. So I'm a qualified hypnotherapist, and with hypnosis, it's slightly different. So I will use pseudo hypnosis just
Mhm.
because like there's this whole debate around what hypnosis is and isn't, and a lot of the time pseudo hypnosis, the lines are quite blurred as to what hypnosis is and what pseudo
Right.
hypnosis. And so I will use a lot of pseudo hypnosis, and then if I feel like they are going into a real trance,
Mhm.
then I will expand on that as well. So it's worth kind of noting and just kind of bringing hypnosis into the kind of playing it for real conversation, I guess that we're having here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a big responsibility, honestly, too. It
It
is.
is. And I would say, I get asked all the time, kind of, what's the best way into hypnosis, and I would always start with a clinical hypnotherapy course. There's some quite short ones that are quite good. And even if you're doing pseudo hypnosis, just because that you might think it's pseudo hypnosis and you might think it's a trick, but if that person feels, the participant feels like, oh, this is hypnosis, and they've got strong belief in that, you can quite quickly find yourself in a situation where they're actually believing this is real, even though you think it's a pseudo trick. And so you end up in this situation where it's like actually this person wholeheartedly believes it, and that's where you've really got to kind of take care of the participant. But just without going off on a tangent, I just thought it'd be quite
Let's
useful.
circle back to that because I do want to talk to that. I didn't know you had a big grounding in hypnosis. I do want to talk about that actually. But let's do the Traveler because people are tired of being, pardon my French, but they're tired of being dick teased. Let's show them this raging hog, and I think they're gonna love it because it's incredible.
So I've been quite bored recently, Jacob. So I would like you to take me on a surprise holiday abroad. So
Awesome.
in a moment, you're going to decide where in the world you're going to take me. So
Okay.
the only thing I will say is that when I travel, I love to see things. So I love to see kind of architecture, especially. So when we get there, I want to see something epic, something like the Statue of Liberty in America. Petra in Jordan's a good one, or that tall tower thing in Toronto, Canada.
Mhm.
Can never remember what that's called, but something like that. Because if it's just a beach, I'm just going to get bored, right?
Mhm.
So with that in mind, just get a country in mind now.
Okay.
Got one. And so that we don't appear rude, because there's nothing worse, when we get off the aeroplane, do you know, let's say, this country's flag and how to say hello in the language?
Yes.
Okay. Yes to both?
In this case, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, so we'll put the language to one side for a second and we'll start with the flag. So just imagine this flag kind of blowing in the wind like flags do,
Okay.
and just focusing on some colours there for me.
Okay.
Okay, so straight away I'm seeing a red in this, yes?
No.
Oh, okay. But this is a hot country, yes?
Generally, yes.
Yeah, good. So I'm kind of getting that kind of red hot thing. Okay. Just imagine the sights and the sounds of this country for me, and
Okay.
kind of the things that we'd maybe smell there, the foods that we'd taste, that kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so straight away, okay, so I'm getting that this place is kind of, okay, so this would be like some kind of quite upbeat music going on with this
Yeah.
country. I think. And this would be a kind of combination, I think, between kind of beaches and mountains, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But, okay, look at me a second. Okay, and there's something quite spiritual about this. I'm seeing something with its.
It took me a second, but yeah.
Yes. Are we in Brazil, Jacob?
Yeah, yeah. That's so funny. That's where I got this mug.
Oh, really? In Brazil?
Yeah, this is where I got this mug. You know what? Honestly, I thought for sure you wouldn't get this one because I mean, because like not, I don't think most people would say yes to knowing how to say hello in this country. That really fucking fries me even more. Because I mean, I mean, I think everyone knows. I feel like this following social media. I've been to Brazil, but still, oh, that's really good. It's so much. It's such a fun experience. It really is.
Yeah, so that's essentially it in its how it works. And obviously I can't go into that.
Yeah.
But
Go
yeah,
by the book. Mind effects.
I think yeah. So that's available from Mind Effects as from now. So at the point of you seeing this, that will be available. But I think it's worth noting as well that with all my creations and all my effects, I never ever want to fool magicians. I'm not interested in fooling magicians. I don't care about magicians. I don't create to fool magicians. I'm just not interested, right? It's all about the people that I come across and the participants and the spectators that are non-magical folk. So if you did get an element of what was going on there, great. Because as I say, that's not, it's not meant to fool magicians. So I'm hoping that you guys kind of know a little bit kind of what's going on there. Just because that way you can make an informed choice. It might be worth at this point I might be able to say a little bit about how this is different from Navigator, if that's kind of some of the questions people have got, is kind of what's the improvements on Navigator. Obviously it's another country divination travel effect, where you essentially, through a short conversation like you've just seen, are able to tell the participant what country they are thinking of. But it is very different from Navigator, very, very different from Navigator. So I don't know if now's a good time to kind of talk.
Let's talk about it, man, because I think that what I love most about Navigator, and what I've noticed is a constant with you, is you and I have a similar belief that it's not about the picture, it's all about the frame. It's not about what the content is, it's about how it's framed to a participant, right? And that's a huge part of how this really does its thing for those who are early adopters of Navigator. So yeah, definitely talk about that. I want to hear. I have an idea because you perform it 2 or 3 times, and I know Navigator well. I've done it. I need to get it probably back in my head, but this is going to be a better thing to have in my head here shortly. So yeah, go over it, man. Tell us all about it. Chop it up.
So, are we all right? Kind of revealing a little bit of method on here. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm of the belief that while magicians argue for exposure and everything, on a side tangent, I got an argument with a bunch of magicians a while back over my review of the pita pad, like showing it in action and everything. Oh, that's like going out in the street and holding up a sign and saying, guys, you don't know how YouTube works. You don't know how social media works. If you do, great, awesome. But it's not that I'm calling you a liar. It's just you're wrong. And the truth is, people don't really care enough anyway. People
That's the thing, right?
don't care. Like, I think that, and this will be another conversation entirely. We put our things on a pedestal and we fail to realize that nobody loves magic and mentalism more than magicians. Nobody does. But go on.
Yeah, and that's it. And for most of us, myself certainly, and I know you are the same, Jacob. Like, we'll do everything we can to protect those secrets and look after magic. So that's our responsibility. But yeah, essentially, so Navigator it was a lot of years ago. Obviously, it was the first effect I'd created, and so Navigator used letters. Basically, it used an anagram, and it used restrictive without seeming restrictive, which is Pete Turner's beautiful principle. And so it was a combination of the two. The problem with Navigator was, looking back now, all those years ago, is that there was a lot of process to it. Basically, because it was very process heavy. There was quite a lot of memory work for anybody that performs Navigator. It is quite a lot of memory work, and just in terms of how quick the Traveller is compared to Navigator. So I would say that if you kind of perform in Navigator and you've read Navigator and you're thinking, well, Navigator is quick, then you're going to be pleasantly surprised with how fast the Traveller is. If you've not Navigator, then this is kind of for you. And if you've not bought it, I would buy the Traveller at this point, just because it was a lot more to remember. It was quite process heavy. There was a couple of things in there that you had to remember to do. So when I was creating, I kind of Pete Turner always laughs at me because he always goes, "You're not finished with that plot yet, are you?" And I am now, but I wasn't. Essentially, it was still kind of over the years, kind of ticking over. Can I get it cleaner? Can I get it quicker? Can I get rid of essentially the letter guessing that came with Navigator? Can I get rid of that? And so the rules I set myself was I didn't want to guess any letters. I wanted it to be able to be performed in any language, just because, like, a lot of the time, I think when people are creating, I think it's important to remember that people need to perform this in other languages without having to spend 6 months translating it. So that was that, and it had to be very, very easy to remember. Like, it had to be like super quick, super easy to remember the process and how to learn it. So with that, I essentially came up with the Traveller, and it ticks all those boxes and more. And I'm really proud of it. It's super clean, super quick. Yeah, I don't know if you've got any questions on that, Jacob, or anything that you think people might want to ask about it. I'll do my very best without obviously giving the method. As I said, the method's not really, I'm guessing a lot of people will go, "Oh yeah, okay, I see what's going on there." So yeah, if you've got any questions about it, I'll do my best to answer, or not. It's fine.
Well, I think the important thing to point out here for everybody is, again, and we talked to this at the head of the call here before we logged on. Even if you look at this and go, "Oh, I can see that," the truth is, at the end of the day, you're not paying, I feel like, in Magic for, especially in this, for like the coming up with your own method on your own. If you do, cool. If you want to try and flesh it out, cool. But I can tell you that I know for a fact Reese has taken this thing out and shopped it so many times and probably fallen flat on his face enough times that book is going to save you from, the 80-20 principle, right? There's that 20% that gets 80% of the results, and then there's that 80% that, I think that's just all you say. The 20% gets 80% of the results, right? So you're going to save yourself from the 80%, that 80% of failure, that 80% of falling on your face, 80% of trying to craft this. And I'm telling you, knowing Reese's mind, regardless if you're like, "I can see that," and if that's what you base your purchases on and base what you bring into your world on, I feel for you. I feel for you really heavily.
I think as well, like, if you are kind of sat there going, "Oh yeah, I get what's going on," there are a lot of subtleties to it, like a lot of I can't say too much obviously, but there are a lot of things, there are a lot of subtleties in there that kind of go a long way to making this work. So yeah,
I agree with you on that. Like, I mean, for me, it's like I can see the improvement 100%, because it's one of those things. Like, I love Navigator. Some of it, because of the framing on it that makes it work, is a little different in the US, just because we're weirdly different cultured. But I think that a lot of people don't understand, like, and I know this from people that a few, like, I can't tell you the amount of times people are like, "Oh, when I moved to England, there's like many culture shock there." And I'm like, dude, there's some culture shock. It's different. It's different in the US.
Yeah, it is different. Yeah, it's different. I guess I wanted to give, what I want people to do is I want people to have as much of an informed choice with this as they can. Like, so that's why if you've not seen the trailer, head over to Mind Effects and watch that, because there's a full uncut performance in there. And so yeah, it's essentially, I just want people to kind of go, "Yes, that's for me," or "No, it's not for me." But I don't like this toying around, and I get that people can't often reveal things, but I like to know, if I am buying an effect, which is very, very rare, but if I am, I like to know what I'm buying. Will that fit in my set or not? Like, it's not a game, right? This isn't a game. It's like I said to you, my set is, I protect it so much because that's years and years of refining that, and there's a lot of Pete Turner's material in there and stuff as well. But obviously, but yeah, that's so tightly knit that when I'm introducing anything else to that set, like I want to know before I spend my 30-40 quid, whatever it is, that that's going to fit in my set, right? And so that's the reason why I've done an uncut performance in the trailer. That's why I'm happy to kind of perform it on here, just because I want people to go, yes, that's for me, or no, it's not. And if it's not, that's okay, that's fine. You know, that's not a problem. But yeah, I want people to go, yes, that's definitely for me. So that's why I'm trying to share as much as I possibly can without obviously giving the whole effect away. But yeah, so that's essentially it. It's as I say, it's super quick, it's super smooth, and the memory work, like I've got a terrible
Just about
memory,
to ask.
especially now. Like I'm approaching my, approaching 40, and my memory's going a little bit, and so I need to be able to recall things when I'm performing, right? So I needed something that was just so simple, and I think when you get this, I think you'll see exactly what I mean by that. There's also a Facebook group that's been set up as well. So within that, we're going to do some mock performances. We're going to talk through anything that anybody's struggling with. Not that you really would with this, but if people are struggling, we can discuss that. You guys can jump on a video chat with me, and we'll do some one-to-one stuff to go through it. So all that kind of opens up to you as well once you purchase it.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention this because I know this is always a question that I see whenever there's anything that fits the kind of propless mentalism vibe out there. And I'll give this tip on. I've given this tip actually in Fraser's interview as well. For anyone that wants to learn propless mentalism, there's a really, really stupid, simple way to get your training wheels going. And it doesn't change anything, but it makes it better later on. And that is, do me a favor, write that down, and just have it ready for a center tear. And if you get it wrong, you scrap it. You say, I'll tell you what, let me try something else. I think that we need to connect a little bit more. What I would maybe do is move into something like, well, Bill Montana's Pulse, something like that. And then say, okay, now we're connected. Concentrate again this country for me. And then you nail it, right? I think you just have a peek out, basically, right? Like that's the training wheels to it. I think it's like, there's a story that I think Pete was telling me about when he was working with Keith Barry. And one of the things he said is one of the things Keith would do is say, like they put up next to a pin code, or not pin code, an ATM. And he would stand there and, basically stop and guess people's pin codes. And that was kind of like the premise for the show he was doing at the time. Side note, I got to meet Keith finally at Blackpool, and like that's the first person I saw do hypno and mentalism. And dude, I could have cried. Like there's not many people, because I mean I've got to meet most of my idols in life, thankfully, so I'm pretty immune to the whole celebrity shock anymore, in my opinion. And when someone said, "Oh, Keith Barry's here," I went. It was Casper, actually, and I was just like, whoa, hey. I haven't done this in a long time either. I'm like, because usually I just walk out and be like, hey, how you doing? I just don't care, because I know that's how humans should be. But I'm like, whoa, dude, would you introduce me to him? And dude, I went over, gave him a hug, and I was like, dude, thank you. You back when I was like, 8 or 10 years old, I saw your stuff, and it got me fired up and inspired before I was even into mentalism and magic. You made it look cool. And then 13 Steps to Mentalism killed it for me. And I kept in magic. And then years later, when, I started forming a friendship with Pete and found Darren Brown and everything, it all kind of came full circle again, right? But like what they would do is they would basically have Keith stand there, and he would just honestly try to guess their PIN code before he was fed the information. And it made it really real. And I think that's something that as people are learning this and they're worried about, like, and they're maybe doing their first 10 performances, the memory work, he said, I don't think is really hard. I haven't seen it fully yet. I haven't got my book yet. And you haven't either.
No. I need to get my copy from Michael, but no, yeah, it's the memory work is nothing, and it's not
language dependent as well.
Not language dependent. You probably have it down within an hour. I'm not saying go and perform it within that hour. Please, like, learn this, practice this, but yeah, essentially you can learn this in an hour. Like, you'll have it down.
Yeah.
And
It's all
yeah,
confidence. Confidence is actually, I think, the main method to propolis mentalism, just like in hypno. It's literally being the mystic, being the mage, being the mind reader. And when you have confidence, what happens too is this, and this is always what happens to me whenever I fudge something up, as I'm getting something new into my, working memory set, whatever, even with physical effects that have mechanical methods. Um, if I get tense or I get worried and I'm not at a 10 out of 10 certainty on my result, one, the performance diminishes, but two, my performance diminishes. And then what happens is my brain starts getting clouded with other things that will
yeah,
take me away from pulling mental information needed to execute the thing. So, yeah, use that training wheel. I said at the end of the day, if you feel like you need 5 performances to get it to know for a fact you've got this down and hit different pathways and stuff in this, just have them write it down. Just have them write it down, put it in a stenter tear. And the cool thing is, if you nail it, some of those times too, then it just fucks up people more because they go, he didn't touch this. And that's honestly, even though you say this is something that's not really designed to fool magicians, I think that would actually fool a lot of magicians just because of the fact they're going, like, fuck, how do you get the read?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's different ways you can do this. I would say, like, that this can't really fail. And so, to give you a little bit of confidence in this, and obviously we'll talk about, if you purchase this, then we'll talk about more of this in the Facebook group. But because of the way this is constructed, it can't really miss. You can't really fail with this. So yeah, there's that. And I mean, a lot of the thing, like with the propolis thing, and I don't kind of want to get into that argument. I think most people know my views on the fact that I love propolis mentalism. I'll no apologies for that.
Same
And
here.
so a lot of people's thing is, well, why don't you just get them to write it down and peek it? Well, you can do that in a certain situation, or why don't you just use a spend pad and reveal a country that way? Look, there's a multitude of ways that you can reveal a country. There's a multitude of ways that you can reveal any information. But I think that the more tools that we have as mentalism in mentalism and magic, the more kind of the better it is. If the builder just has a hammer, is not going to be able to build anything that great. But if he has a multitude of tools, then essentially he's got all the tools he needs to as that kind of job progresses. And it's the same, I think, with mentalism. With the propolis stuff, I think it is, justification or no justification. I think if they're not writing it down, personally, I think that's more real to do this propolis than if they write it down. They're still going to remember to write it down as if it's completely propolis. Then essentially they're walking away going, how did I get that? I didn't tell him. I didn't give him any information at all. We just had a brief conversation.
Well, it's faster too, isn't it? Like, I think that we just did was very conversational. And the cool thing about words is, as soon as they come out, if importance isn't placed on them, for the most part, they evaporate.
Yeah.
For one, but it took like 30 seconds, didn't it? You nailed that in like 30 seconds, man. It's kind of like the same thing that was as cool as, you know what this makes me think of? This is to country divinations and such, and location place divinations, as to what Isabella's Star 3 is, in my opinion, to date of birth divinations. This is like, and not to put on a pedestal, as being direct and honest, because you got to look at it this way, guys. This is so streamlined and nice. If someone come up with a better method than this, hats off to you. I think I don't really know if there is one, though. It's this.
I won't be. This is my final say on the subject of country divination. I will not be releasing another country divination from this. If somebody can come up with something, better, faster, whatever, then I'll be buying that. Because I can't. I'm at my limit now. I can't get this anymore. Streamline. This has been 3 years in the working. I've worked it into the ground, and yeah, essentially it is what it is now. But I think people will like it. I think and as I said, there's various ways of revealing information, and this is for me the cleanest and quickest, really. And also not forgetting that you can lengthen this as much as you want. I performed it pretty quick there, just I want to kind of get across that you can perform it pretty quick. But you can drag this out. You can get various hits, various reveals. If you happen to know what animal is in that country, you can get a hit on that. And so I won't talk any more about that because I'm going into method a little bit there. But you can essentially get hits of, from various things within that conversation. One thing I like to reframe at the end as well, if you want to kind of span this out even more, is to say, so right at the back end, I now know what country Jakob was thinking of. And so at that point, if I wanted to expand this a little bit more, I could say, so there's 196 countries in the world, 197 actually, if you count a little island off of Africa, apparently. So there's all those countries on planet Earth. Within those countries, there's hundreds of thousands of things we could have seen, right? But you picked one country out of all those countries on planet Earth. You're thinking of one country, and now hit it, and now you've got essentially where they go. So you could have thought of any country in the world. Now, because of the way this is structured, and you'll see in the book, they have to say yes at that point. You say, I could have thought of any country, and they think for a second, and then they have to say yes. They've no choice but to say yes. Absolutely. So that's a little bit of a kind of a reframe. If you did want to expand on it a little bit more, I could say, so just think of an animal from in this country. Just imagine that animal. Okay, so I'm seeing, it's almost like a bear. Is this like a black and white bear? And you can go down that. You can go down whatever road you want. You can start revealing foods if you want. You can reveal landmarks. You can reveal, whatever you want, really. And also within finding out what country they're thinking of, they're telling you as well at the same time. So I will say that that's not really a method revealer. Is that I there's a couple of things there I said to Jakob to find out what country it was. So take from that what you will, but hopefully that will again give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. Just again to give you this informed decision of, I want you to know that you're spending it's about 30 quid over here, I think, on Mind Effects, and I want, that's hard-earned money, right? I want you guys to know that money is going to good use, and it's not going to be wasted, basically. So.
I think people can invest confidently in this. I mean, one, I think we talked as the head two of this. I'm a big believer in this kind of transparency approach that's getting more popular in magic, which, just understanding that magicians are looking for this stuff, and we can be open and transparent about this and not try and be deceptive in our copy and our offering and our what this is. We're going to have a lot more people satisfied. And I think we have a lot more, I think, and I'll tell you what, this could heavily attest to some of the stuff I've seen illusionists do lately, as they've kind of changed their image, as G's kind of come to the forefront as the face of the company and everything. Like, I have mad respects for him and the fact that he's just so much transparency now. And whenever they bring an effect out, like, he's very upfront, and people respect that. And this is what we've done here essentially too.
Yeah, the best I get, and I respect, and I get there's things within this that obviously I haven't revealed the method, because otherwise we'd essentially just then be in a world where we were just telling each other different methods, right? And that's taken, for the history of magic, we've always bought secrets off each other. So yeah, essentially it's as much as you can go to without revealing the method. What upsets me is when I see something and I think that's absolutely insane, and then you get it and it's completely not what you expected at all, and it's just not fair. I'll no apologies whatsoever by saying that people should not be doing that. We should give in as much as we can, but at the same time I do understand that there's things that you can't give, like there's aspects that you just can't give away, right? Because essentially you'd just be on a Zoom call with everybody just telling them the secret, and so yeah. But no, that's so that's the Traveller. That's out there, and there's another 3 notebooks full of when from the 3-year break when I was away. As I say, it was every night, every day. Whenever I made a brew, I would sit, I would write, and I'd let it all pour out. So there's 3 notebooks down there that are absolutely rammed. All of those things are workable, easy to do, all like the Traveller. And yeah, essentially that's been my work for, my mentalism for the last 3 years has been all that. So in a year, whatever, I don't know when yet, then I'll probably share that as well with the community. So yeah, there's lots to look forward to.
Dude, I love it. I love it. So that being said, we've hit the past, we've come to the present. Let's look at the future. And my first question in the future is, based off what you just said, can you tease us a little bit? What's coming up, man? What's the next thing when you look at like these notebooks full of stuff? What's the next thing where you look at it and you go, even if it's just a small, like, it's kind of like this, but I can't say much more. What's the next thing for you, man?
Put me on the spot. It's all right though. It's cool. Yeah, I think so there's kind of 2 things that I kind of want to say here is that I never ever release anything. There's anybody that'll ever kind of watch my work with Peter Turner, and we'll come back if we've got time, just on a couple of little funny stories of when I was working with Pete. Yeah, working with Pete and Navigator and Out of the Magi, I'll never release anything that's not ready to be released, that I haven't worked to the bone personally, and that I don't think, I won't release for the sake of it, basically. And so, yeah, essentially, I won't be releasing everything in those notebooks, just because there's things that'll probably take another 4-5 years of working through, but there are some exciting things that are ready. Very different is Not Another Country Divination. Like I said, this is the last and final time I'll ever be visiting this plot. Get that on record, Jacob.
I've got it.
Absolutely, just because I've taken it personally as far as I can take it, and I hope other people in the future will take it further, because that excites me as well. So it won't be another country divination plot. It's something completely different, something I've never done, something a lot darker. So we're going into kind of the other side that excites me now, which is along the lines of being in league with the devil and things like that I quite like, that kind of fantasy and idea of that. So it's quite dark. I think people will like how that's written, because it's been quite fun. There's quite some fun things in there, and it'll be quite fun to write that. At the minute it's just all in notebooks, but that will be something I've kind of got in mind. There's potential, possibly somewhere in the future. I've got an idea for a deck as well, a mentalism deck that's kind of there. So that's this. You put me on the spot now. See, I'm giving away my I didn't want to reveal that. That's fine. That's cool. Jacob owes me a Kit Kat now.
Yeah. It's all about the Kit Kats. It's all about the Kit Kats.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, my next thing will be a lot darker than I've ever gone in terms of the presentational side. The presentational angle is quite dark, and then potentially, a deck. There is also, I don't know how to share this. So yeah, there's Who's Ready for Christmas is what I'll say. It's probably not this Christmas, but possibly next Christmas. I don't know yet. I can't say too much about that, but there's something that will embark on that Christmas spirit a little bit. So yeah, I'm not saying anything more, because otherwise it's going to be 2 Kit Kats you want.
Well, there's 4 in a pack, so I mean, does it count? Like, we talking bars here, taking a break, or are we talking like whole Kit Kats?
Oh, Kit Kats, dude.
Okay, that's fair.
What I will say is that I'm here to stay, like, certainly for the long-term foreseeable future. Now I'm back in the community. I'm ready to share my work again. I know, I'm sorry to anybody that kind of, I kind of just disappeared on. I know a lot of people that enjoyed my work previously, like, Reese, where have you gone? When are you going to release something? And so hopefully this interview kind of clears a lot of those questions up for you, and reassures you that I am back in the community now. I have got some new work that I'm going to share with you, and it's good to be back. It really is good to be back in the community.
Yeah, I can tell it's a revitalization, because let's see, let's see, when was it? It was like right before, because I think I came back from the UK March 1st. So it was like the week before I left, or a few days before I left. I was actually at your place sitting there, meeting your wife, meeting the pup,
Yeah.
um, exploring the town. Um, and we were talking about this a little bit, and I know you were so excited to kind of re-emerge back into this. It's
Definitely.
so good to have you back, man. We need more positive people in the community. And this is again very opinionated on this, but I feel to have the right mentality, And the fact that you're coming out with a bang like this, you're like literally, I look at this and like, dude, this is. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they're like social performers like me. Like, I want to integrate this thing in, and chances are that like this might be the only thing I need to do if I'm out socially just doing something. It's a
Yeah,
great opener because it's quick, it's easy, it's intuitive, it's an amazing effect. It takes people on a journey, and
I'm
it
blushing.
taps in their interests, their hopes, their desires, and what they want for their future, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, essentially you would, and kind of just touching on that point a little bit, like if you are, and it's just something that's kind of come to my head now, so I apologize for going off on a tangent, but it's something I feel extremely kind of strongly about, so I would like to kind of share it, and that is that if you are not, and I'm going to put my hands up here and go like this, professional in magic, like there is no, like the amount of times I see, or that there's this some kind of hierarchy because you're a professional magician or a professional mentalist where you're earning money. If you're not earning money from this, my highest respect to you. Like, I have, I'll say that I have other streams of income. I don't rely solely on magic and mentalism at all, and for those that have read The Art of the Magi, going back to that, will understand why. But yeah, essentially, if you're an amateur, if you're the kind of magician or mentalist that enjoys performing for your friends and family, you are no different or no less of a magician or mentalist by doing that. Not at all. In fact, I'd go as far as saying some of the best mentalists that I've ever seen have been casual people that just perform for friends and family. Again, going back to The Art of the Magi, if you've read that, you'll know that for years, I didn't agree with kind of the whole business gig thing and stuff. Now I've matured a little bit, and I get why people do that as well. Like, you need to put food on the table, right, for your family, and that's absolutely fine. That is not what I'm saying here at all. I've got total respect for people doing gigs as well. It's just that what annoys me is there is this hierarchy, whether it's intentional or not, where people that are amateurs, right? I even hate that word, right? But for want of a better word, that just perform casually, like, you are no less of a magician or mentalist. Please don't ever let anybody tell you or make any, don't ever feel that you are and that you have to get to this standard of being a pro. That's not what magic and mentalism is at all. And so please take that home with you. Please take that to heart with you, that you are as good as the pros. Notice I'm doing that a lot because it's ridiculous. So yeah, I feel it's something I feel really. You'll see the passion kind of coming out in me when I kind of get on these tangents where I feel passionate about something. That's where it kind of all comes out. Where it's my passion for magic and mentalism is that magic and mentalism are not. It's not a business. It is not. Oh, I'm only good if I'm doing gigs professionally. It's not that. It's not that. You enjoy magic and mentalism however you want to enjoy it, and we're all equal in this community.
I agree with you on that, man. And I mean, speaking
I
from
went off a
my
bit there, but yeah, I just think it's important that people know that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I actually I don't think I know you're right. I don't give a shit if people have a different opinion. It's a no. It's not a think. Um, it's like I try to explain to people because it's funny now, right? Like, because I use a lot of this stuff when I'm closing deals or forming relationships with people in the business sense. Like I'll tell you, I'm really excited to put this in my head too, is to use it because obviously it works over video conferencing, and one of the big things of why we struggled to get on and find time together to do this was I'm on sometimes 10 meetings a day for Zoom. They're 30 minutes to an hour each. I wake up at 5, generally sit at the desk by 8, and then go until 6, 7, 8 p.m. sometimes. It just depends. And when I look at this as a way to quickly establish rapport and, build trust with an audience, it oop, it basically is just astounding to me. Like, it's something that I'm really excited to utilize, because you can tie this in. Like, for me, I'll give you an example. Those of you that are business people out there, maybe you have an interest in magic, but you're you're an HR person, you're a salesman, you're a digital marketer like me. Like, I use mentalism all the time to go like, yeah, so one of the things I'm really good at is the human side of digital marketing. So I integrate human understanding and human, experience with these automation processes to make it feel so much more real. I'll give you an example of this. One of the things I'm able to do is really hone in on people's wants, desires, whatever. So I'll tell you what, let's have a fun experiment just to showcase this. Boom, you move into something like the Traveler or something like that. It takes 30 seconds and it's great. They get a emotional experience out of it. They get something amazing out of it. And you say, yeah, so you can kind of see how one of the things I'm able to do is really tap into people's minds to bring them the offerings they want to and bring them what they really want in their world. And it sounds stupid and silly, but it's great, because what happens is, I've tested this, because as a digital marketer, you got to test things constantly. The difference between me doing something that's magic mentalism related, even if it's something subtle, like one of the things, I don't have it on me right here, but I went and bought one of those fake tongues off of Alibaba, 59 cents. So I'll say, man, you want to see something? This is really been bugging me. Like, it's messed up, and the fake tongue looks perfect. And I'll grab a pen or something and be like, yeah, do you see it? And just stab it through and start twisting thing. And they're going, oh my God. And then I'll pull it all. I'll make boom, like pull it out. And I'm like, best 59 cents I've ever spent. Even
That's
little
cool.
gags like that, just increase, I've noticed, the conversion rate, the sales rate of a situation. And because people just fall in love with you. They're like, oh man, this guy's so different. And it's not trying to be special, it's just being, right? It's like, this is something that's a part of who I am, that I'm sharing with you, that I'm not, you know what I mean? It makes people feel it makes people feel special, which is all most people everyone's striving for deep down as humans. So yeah, like, magic's beautiful. We need to share it more people. It doesn't matter if you're a stroller, if you're a stage person, if you're gonna get on here and argue, this will never work on stage. Okay, cute. Move along.
I think, for those that have read that know who I am, will know that for years my main income, I worked with young people, hard to reach young people that were getting into substance misuse and feeling quite down, and so for years that's what I used magic and mentalism for, was to reach those hard to reach young people, and engage them essentially. And yeah, so I have absolute first-hand experience to know that this thing can change lives. This mentalism and magic can impact on an emotional, profound level. And so yeah, it's just a point to make, that I know a lot of people have kind of said, oh, I'm only a casual performer. No, you're a casual performer. Quit using the only. You're a casual performer, and that's fine. That's okay. So yeah, just my opinion again.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, man. I always love because I'll tell you what, some of the best people out there are casual performers. Like, honestly,
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
the best performance I've ever seen have not been on. I'll be direct and honest. I have never seen something on stage or in a professional setting that has impacted me as much as the stuff I've experienced from social casual performers, especially ones that don't know I'm a magician and they perform for me.
Yeah, no, and that's it. That's the thing, and yeah, so yeah.
You mentioned this. Do me a favor. Let's do some stories at Pete, because you and I both have some funny ones. Start off on a story for me. It's gonna show how raw this is. I realize I didn't bring my power thing up here, and this is charging the camera and the microphone. So start a story and head this off while I quickly run downstairs too and grab my charger so that we don't die and lose all of this.
So yeah, I mean, working with Pete at the 13 Souls, where me and Pete have been friends for years. as I've said, and we've been on lots of adventures and had some great times together. You know, the thing about Pete is he's an absolutely amazing teacher. Like he's the most patient guy in the world when it comes to teaching mentalism. And so I quickly was able, in a fortunate position, to spend a lot of time with Pete and learn from him and listen. I think that's the thing, like with somebody like Pete, is to listen to what he has to say, because he has a lot of knowledge about this subject. He's like an encyclopedia of mentalism. But yeah, a story. So we were filming down. We went to Wales. So we Pete at the time had a camper van, and I took my camper van, and we headed down to Wales. And at the time, we used to do a lot of astrophotography and things as well. Pete's astrophotography is, again, absolutely phenomenal. Everything that guy does is phenomenal. He's a bit annoying like that. But yeah, so we went down and we were shooting. I think it must have been In the Name of Bob, I think we were shooting, one of my video downloads. And yeah, so there were myself, Pete, Casper, and we went down into Wales, into the forests and the mountains in Wales. And it was actually my birthday the day after, and so I woke up, and they'd put like a teddy bear's picnic spread on in the middle of this forest. There were like these little cakes and tea and sandwiches and crisps and all this kind of stuff, like in the middle for my birthday. So that was really cool. So we're kind of sitting there in the middle of this forest, having this teddy bear's picnic in the middle of Wales, in the middle of the mountains. And yeah, just so many cool stories of things that we've done, laughs that we've had like that, that are just great, and very very precious. It's he always kind of encourages me to kind of push myself and do stuff. But we've yeah, when we were filming kind of the video download series, we were we'd be up in the mountains in Scotland, freezing cold, and it'd be like, bro, just stand on this mountain for another 10 minutes and get this shot. But no, it's yeah, lots
That sounds like Pete.
Yeah. But no, that's probably one of my best favorite memories, when we went to Wales to shoot In the Name of Bob. That were cool.
Yeah, Peter is such a unique character, because he's probably the most mischievous person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, when he inevitably becomes an old man, he is going to be literally the most like, I don't know. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Cassidy, honestly, because Cassidy was like that too, just a mischievous dude that always is making everyone laugh and always setting stuff up. Like, there's so many times. Oh my god, just back and forth. Like I think him and I have this thing, like, because we're always somehow end up crashing in opposing beds or on couches in hotel rooms whenever we cross paths. Like in Columbus, I was beat to a pulp because we went out and just partied our face off one night. Came back, and he's like, there's a second bed, just take a nap real quick, and I just crashed out. I wake up, and there's a picture of me, and it's just like me, my mouth open. He's like, what a pedo. So then I got him back when Pig Cake, when I were out with Pig Cake, when I was there, and we were visiting you actually a few days later. We're in London one night. I know it was Blackpool, and Pete's, having some back problems. It's like, mate, and I've helped him before, because, it's like, I know the sciatic nerve pain. My dad suffers from that, and it's harsh. It's really harsh. So he tells Big Cake, would you mind digging your knee into my back right here? And there's this beautiful, beautiful picture, which I'll have to send you on Messenger, of Pig Cake, who is like one of the tiniest humans to ever walk the earth, one of the funniest too. And him digging his knee into Pete's back with his shirt, with both of them their shirt off, and Pete's got this like extreme pain. I happen to catch the perfect moment, but let's just say it looks so suspect that without context, it's beautiful.
He's one of my very, he's one of my best friends, and it's just the thing with Pete is like that, I think not a lot of people know is the kindest, most caring person as well. But he's got this fun side. We were in Scotland actually. We'd gone up to Scotland to film something, and there were Pete, myself, and Casper. And Casper we'd pulled in, and Casper nipped in to the to use the toilet real quick. So while Casper were in the toilet, Pete were like, "Let's go around the corner and let's pretend we've left him." So we drove off and left him, and we like waited out for like 20 minutes or something. So Casper would kind of come out and like, "Where they gone?" And then we drove back around and picked him up. But yeah, he's always up for a laugh like that. It's cool.
Oh, dude, Pete's one of Pete's supreme missions in life is how can I wind someone up? And if that doesn't translate to Americans, because it's a very English term, how can I just fuck with somebody in a playful, fun way?
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. Pete is great.
Yeah. What a guy. Well, so we've gone a solid hour and we've covered a lot of ground here, man. Are there any like kind of things like you would like to like tell to the audience out there right now, or anything you'd like to touch on or expand upon, any rabbit holes we can go down before we start to close things off?
I think just to I think a lot of the points kind of, it's been a bit of like a therapy session for me because I wanted to get a few things off my chest just about kind of that whole pro amateur thing. I think I'm constantly kind of traveling, like so that lifestyle the kind of that I've created is back. I'm going back out in the van this week with another notebook and a pen, as Jacob said, we kind of film YouTube now, Romany Pirates, as I said earlier. I think just, I guess one thing that I've learned in magic and mentalism is to read, like have your set, create your set, and then just read about presentation and theory, and let that build up around your set. I think when you're having, and this goes back to what I originally said to kind of come full circle, that my uncle always kind of taught me, 5 effects and you're good to go, master them and you're fine, right? So although I'm kind of a little bit over that and there's room for more, I think always allow room for 1 or 2 more as well. But don't have like 50 or 60 effects that you are essentially okay at, and then go out and buy another 10 effects, because just master what you've got. Always leave room for 1 or 2 more to add in there. Like I've done recently, I've added a couple of things that I've just been absolutely blown away with. They've been beautiful and they've gone straight into my set. And so always have that leeway, but don't allow yourself to where you've got like, I do 100 tricks. Again, this is just my opinion. Don't allow yourself where you've got 100 tricks and you don't learn the theory and the presentation. That's so important, So I'll let you in on a little thing. So I've currently just purchased something that I think is great, and what I'm doing for that is I'm researching. There's like 5 or 6 different books. It's no secret to what it is. It's the Druid ESP by Mr. Darkness, and it's great. I love it. And so I'm looking at all the history of that legend, and I'm going to visit some locations over here that are around that, and I'm going to put probably about 3 months into just that one effect, right? So I'm going to know all the history to that effect, all the legend of where that effect comes from and what inspired Richard to do that. And visit all these locations. So now what will come full circle and probably be 2-3 minute presentation is coming from all this background knowledge of that one effect, and it's the same with the traveler. When you get the traveler, please, have a look into the different countries, the different cultures, the different foods, the different animals, so that you've got a good background of kind of that knowledge, even if it's just in the back of your head. And so have your set and then build as much as you can. Watch movies about it. Watch, if you do an ESP routine, read books on what actually happened with those experiments, or watch movies with them. And so that's big for me. Like, and I guess if I can give you anything to take away, it would be that. That's certainly what helps me. And also, if you're new to mentalism, or magic, notice I use the two quite a lot in conjunction, but if you're new to this world, then go back and study the classics. Please study Bob Cassidy. Please read 13 Steps to Mentalism. Please read Practical Mental Effects by Hanneman. Please read these. We're literally standing on the shoulders of giants. Nothing's new in this world, and to go back and see what they essentially created and the way they thought, and the principles of, various techniques that they use. Then go back and study the history, go back even further and study the Fox sisters, and Anna Eva Faye, all that kind of Victorian seance mediumship thing, because you'll come full circle then, and you'll have a strong foundation of kind of what this art is. And it is an art. A lot of people are like, is it an art? It is an art. It's an art form. It's a gift, and it's something that we are now responsible. We are the magicians of today's era. You go back 500-600 years ago, and there will have been a group of people just like us that will have held that mantle of magic. Now it's our turn. We're the people, that hold that mantle for magic right now, and hopefully magic will exist in another 500 years, but we are responsible for magic, essentially, so please respect it. Please learn the history. And I guess if there's a takeaway from any of this, it would be that. It would be presentation, theory, a small set, but leave a couple of room for some new effects in there, and essentially, respect the art, basically.
I 100% agree, man, because people don't realize it, right? But like, if you go out and do this, and, I would say, as long as you're not Johnny Fast Hands, you have an extreme power to change somebody's emotional state, to make an impact in their world, to make them question reality, hopefully in all the right ways for a moment, right? This kind of, last night I was texting back and forth with someone, and I pulled up a couple of texts here because what you're saying made me think of this, right? Because I was talking to somebody about, something about like don't try to be special, just be, and then you will be special. It's the law of inverse effect, right? I'm always one of those people. And one of the things I typed in was, become the best in the world at something with zero ego, while respecting your expertise, and the world opens up for you.
That's great.
Delude yourself that you are something special and deserving. The world shrinks with your humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's it, essentially. Yeah, be you, and especially within the world of magic and mentalism as well. Be you. Don't. There's a lot we can learn from Derren Brown, but don't be the next Derren Brown. Be the next, whoever you are, and yeah, essentially that. I don't copy. I've got long dreadlocks. Not that matters. It doesn't make me any more magical, but what I'm saying is that I'm just me. I'm not trying to be Pete Turner. I'm not trying to be Derren Brown. I'm not trying to be Bob Cassidy or Hanneman. I'm pulling things from those people, and I'm learning all the time, and I'm listening. That's the thing. I'm a listener. I'll listen to what people say, and yeah, but always be you. You are the best you that you can be, right? Like you are the Derren Brown, like Derren Brown, obviously, but you are whoever you are. You're that, right? And you present magic and mentalism however you want to do, and yeah, I hope that makes sense, because that's important.
It does 100%. It does 100%.
In terms of character, I think, like when people say, "Oh, work on your character," I think sometimes we take on this like caricature version of ourselves that you don't need to do that, or we'll put a playing card tie on and always wear a suit when we perform magic. And And in my opinion, you don't need to do that, you know. I I I I'm just who I am when I'm performing magic and mentalism, and when I'm not. You know, if I'm traveling the van around the country, I'm exactly the same person as I would be at a gig, to a sense, because my character is me. If that makes sense at all, like, I hope it does. I hope that's kind of coming across, that just be you, but within the magical world, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. It's important too, because we see so many. Look, I mean, for everyone out there, and I can speak to this from my personal development. I'm sure this rings true to you as well, Reese. Like, when we're getting into this and we're finding our direction, right? Like, we're inevitably going to look at someone like Danny Ortiz, like Pete Turner, like Darren Brown, and we'll probably emulate to start, because to find your own way, you have to have a solid, somewhat grounding in one thing. But it should always be your mission and your ultimate destiny to find yourself. And as somebody that found that, I feel like for my journey, right, like I closed myself off for a long time of just being myself, and people would say like, oh, we can see you snap into a mode, and that's the and if you're doing a character, yeah, I get it. If it's a character based, like, whatever, like my buddy Brandon Wolf, he does a silent like miming clown act with magic, and it's actually really incredible. Like, I don't think me describing it that way does it the justice. I wish I knew his character name to turn you guys on to him right now. It's like bourgeois. It's an interesting thing, and he's fantastic. And he's like 6'5" and very stoic, huge beard. And he's painted, does like a tramp kind of look, get up to how he dresses. He does eye makeup, and he's been working on this thing for years and made it beautiful. And he doesn't, if he's about to perform, he will straight up go a whole day without speaking, perform, won't speak after for a good bit until finally he's ready to come out. Like, that's okay, but at the end of the day, I think that it's important for people to be themselves if they're not looking just to be a character. And I think they'll come across more genuine. And I think we're in a world right now where social media has blurred the lines of reality, and like, it's taken away from humanity in a lot of ways. And I understand, I'm a digital marketing guy. I'm on social media 18 hours of the day, like, and I'll be straight, like, dating, being a single guy, for example, I straight up tell people when I meet them, like, and I get numbers or whatever, I'm like, hey, look, so do you want to cut the small talk here and get off apps and, like, just get a coffee one-on-one or a drink one-on-one and just actually be humans? And I think people are hungry for that. If you're just a human, you will already be a magical person and a magnetic person right away, because we're all hungry for it, and we all think we want specialness, but what we really just want is connection.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, absolutely, I couldn't have summed that. Yeah, that a brilliant kind of summary of exactly that, man. Yeah, that's great. And it's I hope that I've not come across as opinionated throughout this, because that's not who I am. My heart is always just to share and help, and be kind, and so I hope that's come across. I hope that people have kind of seen that some of the topics I am passionate about, but it's only ever to kind of to help, to the best I can, and yeah.
I think it's come through I know it's come through, your character and your magnetism comes through, whether it's the written word, whether it's a conversation real life, or whether it's recording on an interview with someone like me that is a bit harsher. I mean, you've known me a while. I'm very much like, no bullshit. Like, I'll shut things down because I can, but for the right reasons, obviously. So I think your honesty and sincerity's come through beautifully. So that being said, man, is there anything else you want to touch on? Or do you want to round this guy off?
No, I think I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking to you again. I hope people get something from this. I hope you enjoyed The Traveller. If you do purchase it, I'll see you over in the Facebook group, and we're going to jam this further and what have you. So I'll see you guys over there. And yeah, no, it's good to be back, as I say.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you back, man. We've all missed you. I think I've even sent you messages over the years on and off being like, we miss you, bro. Come back. Now what we need to do is bring Robert Watkins back too. He's another one I'm trying to pull back, another one of the good ones. And on a mention of Robert Watkins, when you get in the group, inevitably I'll be in there too because this is awesome. I've got some cool things from this I actually shared with Reese, and it applies to the Traveler as well. Just some ideas that are, one of the main ones is based on something Robert Watkins did. And, I'll be sharing that in the group too. So I'll be throwing in my ideas, recording some videos, and trying my best to add some value.
You had some fantastic ideas with Navigator, and the same with the Traveler. So if people, cheeky plug at the end, if people do want to pick the Traveler up, it is now available at mindeffects.com, I think, or .co.uk. But yeah,
Michael Murray.
Yeah, Michael Murray's website.
Michael Murray. So cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us and spending this time. If you've made it to the end here, bless you. You're a trooper. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And Reese, we're got to bring you back here in the near future too, man. Like, I've got a few people I need to circle back around with and do another interview with, because there's so much to share. There's so much, plus all the stuff you got coming up in the future. We definitely need to get on and chop it up more. And yeah, man, thank you for your time.
And I guess just before I go, there's like a couple of people that I do need to thank. Mick Wilson has done all the kind of the artwork and stuff for the Traveler, for the cover and stuff. And Mick's just a great friend. Mick's just
what a good human.
He's been a friend for years, and Michael Murray just for kind of all his support and stuff with this, and and for obviously hosting. And Michael's been a rock as well throughout all this. So yeah, those guys are brilliant, as well as many other people,
awesome.
including you.
Oh, bless you, my child, bless you. May the Lord bless you with many hams upon your countertop. Whatever the hell that means. All right. Well, cheers, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. And thank you again for tuning in. Have a good one. And stop recording. The notification when the cloud recording is ready.